The apartment was old, the kind with creaky floorboards and faint stains in the corners of the ceiling, history bleeding through the walls. Elena didn't mind. It was cheap, quiet, and close enough to her new job downtown. She unpacked slowly, letting the silence settle around her like dust in the corners. The mirror stood in the living room, tall, ornate, and oddly pristine. It hadn't been listed in the rental photos. The frame was carved from dark, almost black wood, vines curling like fingers around the edges. Elena assumed it was a leftover from a previous tenant. That night, after she hung her coat and brushed her hair, she caught her reflection in it. She waved absent-mindedly at herself. The reflection waved back, in perfect sync, too perfect. Over the next few days, the mirror became part of her routine. She'd check her outfit, glance at it while brushing her teeth, sometimes even practice a smile before video calls. But something gnawed at the back of her mind. Her reflection felt off. It wasn't obvious. Just little things. A blink that seemed a beat late. A tilt of the head that lingered a fraction longer. She tested it, raising her right hand, then her left. It copied her, flawlessly. But the eyes, they felt aware. Watching. On the fifth night, Elena stood in front of it, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. She stepped to the side. Her reflection followed. But when she turned away to grab her phone, her peripheral vision caught something wrong. She froze. Slowly, heart thumping, she turned back. Her reflection hadn't moved. It still stood there, arms crossed, eyes locked onto hers, a cold, knowing smirk spreading across its face. Elena stumbled back, breath hitching in her throat. The reflection suddenly mirrored her fear again, like nothing had happened. She slept with the mirror covered that night, but even in the darkness, she felt it watching. Waiting. Because whatever was behind that glass wasn't just a reflection. It was learning. And it had finally made its first move. Elena hadn't uncovered the mirror in days. A dark bedsheet hung limply over it like a shroud. She avoided looking in its direction, avoided the living room entirely after sunset. But the feeling didn't leave. Even in sleep, she dreamed of glass, cold, endless, and crawling with faint whispers she couldn't quite understand. On the sixth morning, sunlight poured in through the half-closed blinds, streaking gold across the floor. Elena poured her coffee and, against her better judgment, peeked at the mirror. The sheet had slipped, just enough to expose the top third of the glass. She froze. There were scratches, thin, jagged lines etched into the surface from the inside. Dozens of them. Maybe more. At first glance, they looked random. But as she stared longer, they began to form a shape. A symbol. Something ancient and wrong, like it had been written by a hand that didn't belong to this world. Her stomach turned. That night, she couldn't help herself. She pulled the sheet away completely. The glass shimmered darkly in the room's faint light, reflecting nothing but shadow. She touched it, cold, damp. Her finger traced one of the symbols, and for a second, she felt it pulse under her skin. She yanked her hand away. Suddenly, a sound, a soft tap tap tap, came from inside the mirror. She backed up, heart pounding. The mirror remained still. Her reflection stood there, mimicking her. Then, it twitched, subtly. Its head tilted, but not the way she tilted hers. It moved first. Then it smiled. Slowly. Deeply. Too wide. And behind it, shapes began to form. Blurred, flickering silhouettes of figures just beyond the glass. Tall, thin, with hollow faces. They hovered behind her reflection like shadows waiting for permission. Elena screamed and flung the sheet back over the mirror, knocking over a lamp in her panic. It crashed. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. In the pitch-black room, something scratched against the glass. Slow. Deliberate. From the inside. She ran. But something inside her already knew. The mirror wasn't just watching anymore. It was opening. The next morning, Elena stood outside her apartment, trembling. The mirror was still inside, veiled in silence and shadow. But something had changed. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was presence. The feeling of being noticed. She took the day off work and drove to the library, desperate for answers. It was an older building, quiet and musty, the kind with local archives and forgotten books in the basement. She found a clerk in her 60s who listened with skeptical but patient eyes. When Elena mentioned the apartment address, the woman paused. "Apartment 3B, she asked. Elena nodded. The woman disappeared into the back and returned with a brittle manila folder, yellowed with age. "It's happened before," she whispered. "You're not the first." The file contained a news clipping from 1979, local woman found in trance, unresponsive in her home. Authorities baffled. The article mentioned strange carvings found on the walls. Another photo from the 50s showed the same apartment, same mirror, unchanged. Each story shared a pattern: growing paranoia, erratic behavior, then silence. And always, the mirror. The file ended with a handwritten note. "The mirror traps more than just reflections. It mimics until it can take." Elena's hands trembled. She took photos of everything. Back at home, she entered cautiously. The sheet over the mirror had fallen again. This time, it wasn't the same room reflected. The living room looked darker. Dingier. Rotting wallpaper peeled off the walls in the mirrored image. And in her reflection's hand was the manila folder. Elena dropped the real folder in shock and watched as the reflection slowly burned the one in its hand, never breaking eye contact. The flames licked up the paper in silence behind the glass. She backed away. The lights flickered. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number, you can't run. You looked too long." She screamed and hurled a blanket over the mirror again, but it was too late. She could feel it in the air. The mirror had tasted her. And now, it was hungry. The mirror didn't just reflect anymore. It responded. Elena avoided it for days, no glances, no contact. She taped blackout cloth across its frame and shoved furniture in front of it. But at night, the scratching returned. Louder. Faster. Then came the whispering, soft, muffled words that echoed from the walls when the apartment went still. On the fourth night, something changed. She awoke, drenched in sweat, to complete silence. No wind. No city noise. Not even the hum of her refrigerator. And her bedroom door was open. Drawn by a cold current, Elena crept toward the living room. The blackout cloth was gone. The furniture, pushed aside. The mirror stood exposed, shining faintly in the dark. Her reflection was waiting. It looked exactly like her, but it didn't move. Its eyes were fixed, intense. It raised a hand without Elena moving at all. Then it smiled. A jagged, distorted grin. And it reached toward the glass. Elena turned to run. But the room bent around her. The air twisted. Gravity dropped. Everything went black. She opened her eyes to herself, standing in the apartment, but now on the other side of the mirror. The room was dead quiet. Cold. Walls cracked, ceiling blackened with soot, light flickering like it was submerged underwater. She was inside the reflection. She screamed, banged against the glass, but in the real world, her reflection only tilted its head, blinked, and walked away from the mirror with her body. Trapped, Elena wandered the mirror world. It was a warped twin of her home, each room decaying, filled with whispers and shadows that slithered along the floor. In one corner, she saw others, half-formed people, faded faces, frozen in silence. Victims who had looked too long, just like her. She tried calling out, but no sound came. Only the scratching. Endless scratching. And behind it all, something moved, tall, with glowing eyes and too many fingers. Watching. Then came the realization. The mirror didn't steal you all at once. It wore you down. Replaced you. Erased you. And now, Elena was the reflection. And her body was walking freely in the real world. Time didn't move in the mirror world. There was no sunrise. No sound. Just shadows stretching along cracked floors and whispers that crawled like insects beneath Elena's skin. She wandered endlessly, searching for exits that weren't there, tracing faded marks left by others before her, scratches, smears, blood. Her reflection, her imposter, was living her life now. It walked her steps, wore her skin, and spoke to people in her voice. But it didn't have her soul. And the mirror still needed that. One night, or maybe a century later, Elena found something strange, a small, handheld mirror lying on the floor. Unlike everything else, it wasn't broken or warped. It shimmered, clean and silver. She picked it up, and gasped. Inside the hand mirror, she didn't see her reflection. She saw her real apartment, and herself, standing before the tall cursed mirror, trembling. No. Not herself. The thing in her skin was faltering. Its movements were twitching. It wasn't convincing anymore. The body was rejecting it. Elena could feel it, the bond weakening. It was her chance. Summoning everything inside her, she raised the mirror and screamed, not aloud, but with her will. Words came unbidden, drawn from ancient memory, broken syllables, guttural tones. The mirror world pulsed. Cracked. Screamed. The tall mirror in the real world shattered outward, sending shards flying in every direction. Glass rained down like silver knives. The imposter shrieked, its face melting, warping, turning hollow. It stumbled backward, collapsing in a heap of shadow and smoke. Elena's eyes opened in her real body. Her lungs filled with air. The weight lifted. The silence was gone. She was back. The shattered mirror lay in pieces around her. The frame was empty. Still. Silent. For the first time in weeks, Elena slept. Deeply. But the next morning, as sunlight touched the floor, she noticed something chilling. In one large shard of mirror still lying on the ground. Her reflection was smiling. And it didn't blink when she did.